Welcome, everyone, to episode 3 of Who Killed WCW. And I can tell you this, we know for a fact, it wasn't Bret Hart, it wasn't Sting. Who else was in it?
It wasn't Conan.
It wasn't Mean Gene Okerlund.
Wasn't
It wasn't Bobby
Schiavone.
the Brain Heenan.
Wasn't Tony Schiavone.
Nope, it wasn't Tony Schiavone.
Week by week,
The
we're
late
going
Pee
down
Wee
the list.
Anderson. He didn't kill it.
Who?
The late Pee Wee Anderson, the referee. He didn't kill it.
Ironically, the person who a lot of people say killed it, he just passed away a couple days ago.
Yeah. That Turner executive. Yeah.
Yep.
Enough is enough. It's time for a change.
Ooh. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you've watched the first couple of recap episodes that we've done, you know that golden stream, the piss on the grave, signifies that we are back on a Tuesday evening to discuss Who Killed WCW. It is June 25th, 2024. Gentlemen, start your engines. We're going to talk WCW today. I am the effing expert, Mr. Isaacs.
And I'm, of course, the patron saint of professional wrestling. I am that gingered up, bubbly son of a bitch. I'm Canada effing dry, damn it. And I'd like to give a shout out to my good friend, Bad Take Kate.
And I am the EVP of everything AFW. I'm EVP Joe. How are we doing tonight, gentlemen?
I'm ready for a three-way on
Bro,
Hell yeah.
I got to tell you a crazy story before we get started.
I'm down for a crazy story.
So I went to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right? Like literally just got home like 20 minutes ago. I'm sore. I'm sweaty. I threw on the Magic of Wrestling shirt and a hat.
But you are dedicated and you are here.
I am dedicated. I'm dedicated. I got my ass whooped, but I am here because I'm dedicated to effing wrestling. But yeah,
is this your cleanest of your effing shirts?
The cleanest?
Yes. Is that why you chose the Magic today?
It was the one that I found closest to me.
There you go.
That's why I put it on. Because I was wearing a rash guard, right? Because it was a no-gi class. So I came home, took off the rash guard, which was drenched in sweat, really disgusting. And the closest effing wrestling shirt I could find was the Magic of Wrestling. So that's what I threw on. But yeah, I went to jiu-jitsu class, and as soon as I got in the door, a massive storm hit my town, and we lost power.
Oh, wow.
So, like, we literally went on with class.
You were rolling in the dark, literally.
We were rolling in the dark with no light, no air conditioning. And probably about 15 people there. And it was no gi. Everybody already sweats like crazy. It was like grappling sticks of butter that were melting in the dark. I mean, that's what it was like.
Now, was there a little bit of light coming in, or is this just completely pitch black?
There's like a little row of windows right in the front. So, I mean, there was a little bit of light coming in. Not much. I mean, there was enough to see the person you're grappling with, but like you had to like.
So you're really not wrestling in the dark. You're wrestling in the dim lit room.
Very, very dimly lit. So, and there's a grocery store right next to us, and their light was flickering like poltergeist, and it was doing it literally the entire hour. I don't know why. That's very strange, but yeah. So, go ahead, Joe. You were getting ready to say something.
Real quick. I know we were talking about if I have any stories from my Marine Corps days, and I think I've told this story on air before, but I deployed to Iraq from August of 2008 to March of 2009. I was overseas, and my commanding officer was a sparring partner with Brian Stan.
Oh, nice.
So
All-American Brian Stan, former UFC fighter.
And he was a former WEC champion.
Yeah.
Before UFC bought him. So our commander, like we have a martial arts program in the Marine Corps. Well, my CO was like, guess what? I want to take on everybody. So what we do in the Marine Corps is like we do like little, but we sit back to back. and there'll be a third person that says go. And I swear to God, he said go. My commander had me choked out in about half a second.
Yeah, it doesn't take long, dude.
No, like I didn't even know. I barely breathed before I knew what the hell was going on.
I had a dude last week who put me in a rear naked choke, and I I didn't tap quick enough, so I was like seeing stars. And I was like, you got to give me a minute here before we get started.
So yeah, the question of the tapping, like, is that something they teach you? If you get in a situation, tap immediately.
Yeah.
There's no point fighting it.
No,
you can try to fight it, but like if your arm is extended or you're in a choke, you need to go ahead and tap. Don't try to. You fight it before they get to the point to where you're.
Once they got you there, you're screwed.
Once it's under here, you need to tap or you're gonna go to sleep. Yeah.
Like a perfectly executed rear naked choke. If it's a blood choke and not an air choke, 5 seconds and you're done.
Pretty instantly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I got to about 2.5 seconds and I started seeing stars.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's
okay.
No
Let go.
So did you guys ever play wrestling on the school ground when you were kids?
Oh yeah.
I did it in my neighbor's backyard. We had a little ring.
So the next question is, did you ever let someone do the sleeper hold on you?
Yeah, but I've had worse done to me.
No, did you go out though?
No, I don't know. No. We were very
we were messed up. We would practice doing the sleeper on each other and we'd go out. We're like,
that's what's wrong with you. Gotcha.
Yeah.
No.
Like the girl I had a crush on, she's like standing over me. He's dead. He's dead. I'm like, oh, she's paying attention to me.
but we're on the story of backyard wrestling. Me and a bunch of friends, we had mattresses in our backyard, and my buddy was like, "Let me hit you with the snowplow." You all know Al Snow's finisher. So he picked me up, and he goes to drop me, and my head slips between the mattresses, and my head just hits the ground full force. Oh. That shit hurt.
Oh, no, I always just did like power bombs. Like I didn't have any siblings, so I would just like wrestle around with my cousins or whatever, power bombs on mattresses and shit like that.
I mean, I power bomb my son all the time, choke slam him. So
yeah, I used to do that to my son too when he was younger. I don't even think I could pick him up for a power bomb now. He's about my size. So.
Oh yeah, it's a different story.
So we had we had a wrestling league that we created.
Oh,
all the kids from school were in it.
Nice.
Okay.
We were called the LWF.
LWF.
Little Wrestling Federation. And it didn't really quite get, because what we were booking kayfabe though. Yeah. We would write the stories even.
Nice.
How it would happen. And so we only got to the King of the Ring tournament. Everyone else we were going to crown champions. And I was the King of the Ring. And I won by disqualification because I got hit with a 2x4 by the guy I was going to feud with. But I insisted, even back then, I thought this was a great idea, that it should be a championship belt. King of the Ring.
Nice.
So I had my tinfoil King of the Ring championship.
Nice.
Did I ever tell you guys I was briefly involved in a backstage wrestling deal?
No.
I didn't actually do the wrestling because I wasn't an idiot and I didn't want to get hurt. So I got the voice, right? Yeah. So I did the ring announcing. Like they had a PA system and I would do my Justin Roberts kind of spiel and I would do the ring announcing. Yeah. I mean, I did that for a few events for this backyard wrestling group.
Nice.
Yeah. When I was that was when I was like 18. Yeah.
Could you imagine Mr. Isaacs calling AFW matches?
Absolutely.
I would love to call wrestling matches. I think that'd be awesome.
I think we could have a really good color commentary team too. Like,
you know what we ought to do? We ought to do like what ICP did with. Have either one of you ever seen the old ICP Stranglemania tapes?
No.
You can find them on YouTube, but they were old VHS tapes from back in like the Attitude Era, and ICP played characters of like commentators. Like one did color and one did play-by-play. And they found like Japanese like death matches that they don't have an American copyright.
I've heard of this before.
And they dubbed over their own commentary as their characters of these Japanese death matches and put it out as a compilation called Stranglemania. Like,
so we could technically
like
do it with us doing it.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Like, you and I could do kayfabe commentary on like something that doesn't have a copyright here in the U.S.
Now, I don't know. Not everyone knows this, but we were planning on buying a match.
Yeah.
It was going to be Natalia Markova versus someone, and we were going to own the rights to this match, but it kind of fell through. But there's, we still might be able to do that.
I think that'd be a lot of fun. I would love to do that.
Like being able to call a legit match that we own.
Yeah.
Like we were looking at around $1,000 for this. And
It's not bad.
yeah, like if everyone's chipping in, we get really what I was looking for is to pay $500 out of what AFW has. So it's not like breaking us.
Right.
So we had to sell a lot of shirts to make that money. So, so yeah, like, and then if everyone's chipping in $100, it gets made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how fun would that be? And we'd have it forever, and like, we could show people and stuff. Like, hey, I did commentary on a wrestling match. No, you didn't. It's right here.
Yeah, and the cool thing about that,
match.
if it's good enough, it boosts the channel.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
It's gonna be a ripple effect of the channel.
It would be a highly watched video, I'm sure. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, something we could discuss down the road.
Yes, we're definitely gonna have to get back into that because I know everyone's gonna drop $100 on something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that would be so much fun. Like, I would love the opportunity to do that. I would. But all right, gentlemen, I guess we should move on to the matter at hand. And that is episode 3. Who killed WCW?
Do you think that they might do a Who Killed ECW now? Maybe.
That's Paul Heyman. That's not a big decision.
Yeah, I mean,
but
it's Paul Heyman.
or maybe not or maybe a death of ECW.
I don't think there's as much ambiguity there about ECW's failure.
Well, no, but you could talk about all the scoundrel things.
I would watch it. I would love to see like the Rock's company, $7 Promotions, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Even just do like a whole history of ECW because it's not they weren't around for that long.
No.
Start with Shane Douglas with his infamous promo, and just go through the
when it goes from
Eastern Championship Wrestling.
Yes. They were around for about 9. Well, they were around from 92 or 93 to 2001. They outlived
how long were they
WCW.
as Extreme Championship Wrestling? That's when it really
97.
They switched over to Extreme, I think, in either 95 or 96.
Because I think that's when they really peaked, right?
Yeah.
Like before that, no one knew who the hell they were.
Well, they had a cult following as the Eastern Championship. I mean, they had a lot of former WWE guys. I mean, they had Jimmy Snuka and Don Morocco feuding with each other, reliving their 80s feud. I mean, they had some decent stuff.
And did they not have the NWA title?
It was earlier.
Mm-hmm.
They changed to ECW on August 27th, 1994.
1994. That's when it became Extreme.
Yep.
Yeah, because Shane Douglas won the NWA Heavyweight Championship, and then he threw it on the ground, disavowed it, said the NWA was dead and represented dead traditions, and then he declared himself the ECW champion, and they became Extreme.
I have
Championship
a
Wrestling.
question. Marketing wise, do you think getting rid of the NWA championships, like that's a legit name that has history, do you think just keeping them would have been smarter?
No.
At that point, no, because
The NWA was dead then.
it wasn't what it was in its glory days.
Yeah. I mean, it was just basically just a glorified sanctioning body of independence. Like, because when they lost WCW, that was it. I mean, they had no like legitimate, like major promotions that worked with them at that point, and they basically just became an indie title.
The funny thing is the NWA title has been in WWE, TNA, ECW, WCW, and even
technically AEW.
AEW.
Yeah, it's been everywhere. Yeah.
That's really cool.
And it was defended as a mid-card title in New Japan for a long time, too. Back when that Thorpe guy, what was his name? Bruce Thorpe owned the NWA back in like the late 90s, early 2000s. And he was actually an on-screen character in New Japan. But New Japan had the NWA heavyweight title kind of as like a mid-card title of them back in like the early 2010s.
That is crazy to think that title was treated as a mid-card title.
It was. I mean, I think, who was it? I think Tomohiro Ishii had it, and like several New Japan guys were fighting for it. Yeah.
So what was the falling out between Tony Khan and Billy Corgan that they didn't want to do that anymore?
My understanding, just from what I remember seeing at the time, was that Tony Khan was a little upset that he didn't feel like he was getting enough, I guess, reciprocity from Billy Corgan. There's a big word for you guys. In the sense that I think he said in an interview that he funded their like all female pay-per-view or something like that. But then like
did
Billy
he say
Corgan
paid the salaries of the AEW women that he sent there?
Something like that. Yeah. But he like partially funded the show in some way, like paid the talent or whatever. And he didn't feel like he was getting enough back from Billy Corgan, so they just.
But wasn't it? But wasn't it just like him broadcasting this, and instead of like talking to the guy on the phone, I think it went out to the airwaves instead and caused more damage than it would have done.
I'm not sure.
It was something like that. I mean, I don't remember all the specifics, but I do remember seeing the Tony Khan interview where he was kind of taking some shots at Billy Corgan and wasn't too happy. That he had invested some money in a product of theirs and he wasn't getting something back, whether he thought it was respect or talent or something.
Yeah, I don't like that part of Tony.
Yeah.
He doesn't roll with it. He takes it. I don't know what the word is.
He takes things personally too much.
Yes.
Is that what you're getting at? Yeah. I mean, it's the reason. Yeah. I mean, he takes, and I'm the same age as Tony Khan. It's the typical millennial. Like we wear our heart on our sleeves when it comes to like business or anything like that. We take things more personal than like a Gen Xer would, or a boomer or someone like that.
So
yeah.
So the one thing I'm learning, so when I make a post on the All For Wrestling community or Twitter or Instagram, and it's getting a lot of responses, I need to just shut up and not be offended.
Yeah.
Because even though, unless they're saying something that's vile that you need to take care of.
Yeah.
Like this post is beneficial to the brand and
engagement. Yeah.
Yeah. So even if it's not what I agree with what they're saying.
Yeah. Who's that social media guru? What's that guy's name? What's that social media guru? Vanderkamp or Vanderchamp or something like that?
Vanderkamp?
Like something like that. He makes the argument that all social media is good. Any engagement is good, whether it's positive or negative. Just get people talking about you.
Well, it's basically the old adage that all media is good media, or all drawn the
any press is good press.
Yeah, all press is good. Any press is good press. Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as people are talking about you, getting
like there's that Bret Hart and Sting post where a lot of people, I hate Bret Hart. I'm like, well, I love him, but I'm not gonna comment.
I gotta tell you something funny too. I'm glad you brought that up. So I mean, and this isn't a big secret out there. People know I'm a single man, right? So I kind of peruse the dating apps once in a while, just nothing serious. But so I was on Tinder, and like there was a chick who said she was a big wrestling fan, and
What?
I almost took a screenshot and sent this to you, Canada. 'Cause it was
Well,
funny.
next time, do it.
I still do. I've got it. I've got the profile. I think I matched with her. I got a
I was
profile.
like, did you swipe right?
I matched with her. She swiped on me. But anyways, she lives like 2 hours away, so I don't think that would work.
Well, maybe get her on the podcast.
But anyways, I might message her and be like, "Hey, I do a podcast." Anyways,
Yeah,
the
even
point I
if
was
we
making-
went one day, we can bring you on the podcast.
the point I was making is that she put on her profile that she's a huge wrestling fan, but she put but fuck Bret Hart though, because my ex loved Bret Hart and he broke my heart.
That's is this a bit? Is that a little bit of a red flag for you?
I don't know.
Like, would you be able to date someone who's like fuck Bret Hart?
I almost sent her a message. It was like, I mean, I love Bret Hart, but thanks for matching. I'll send you a screenshot of that, Aaron. I think you'll find it amusing.
Like, was this woman hot?
She was pretty attractive, yeah. I mean, I was.
Yeah, I wonder, could I look past the fact that she hates Bret Hart?
I mean, you know,
if she's hot enough, you will overlook that.
I'm not sure I would put opinion of Bret Hart as a deal breaker for me, but I don't know what to say.
Depends how toxic she is about it. Like, again,
right. I think it was kind of tongue.
It sounds like she's probably a fan of Bret Hart, but because of her ex.
I think it was a bit tongue in cheek. I don't think it was like legit. And one of her
Goodness is like, he broke my heart, Bret Hart. Yeah.
She had 2 pictures on there. One of them, she was sitting ringside. It looked like it's some indie show. And then another one, she was at an autograph signing and she was taking a picture with Jake the Snake Roberts.
Nice.
So have you messaged her?
I have not.
Okay, you got to message her, and we got to find out next week.
We got to find out.
You got a week to interact with this woman and find out what went on between you and her in this.
I'm gonna have to send her a message and dig a little deeper into this.
Yeah, I think the goal is even if you don't want to date her, let's get her on the podcast.
Get her to come on.
If you really want to
come on the show,
just send her a GIF of the Bret Hart intro, the riff part, and see how she reacts.
No, but that's later. Don't go that right away. we want to see if we can get this one on the show and maybe.
Yeah, when I saw that, I think I saw it yesterday. I literally almost took a screenshot and sent it to you. I was like, I'm gonna have to share this with Aaron. He's gonna think this is hilarious.
Randy thinks Rich Southwood killed WCW.
Rich Southwood killed WCW. You
now
bastard.
you're saying Joe Graham killed WCW.
Joe Graham, you damn bastard. It's that Young Bucks t-shirt. How did you kill WCW?
Now Joe and Trey J killed WCW.
Trey J killed WCW. Jeez.
I mean, we are the 2 GMs of AFW. I mean,
now Trey J hasn't been on a show in a while. It's good to hear that his name being mentioned.
Well, I mean, he killed WCW, so he's in hiding now. That's what All right, gentlemen. I won't get into the weeds too much about the specifics of this episode, but basically, Eric Bischoff is fired in 1999. We get to meet Brad Siegel, which we've heard his name a million times if you followed WCW's history and podcasts and shoot interviews over the years. And the decision was made, and they described this as the best hire ever. They went and got the creative mind of the WWF at the time, Vince Russo. And that encapsulates the entire episode here. This is all about the Russo era, bro. And we get all into the specifics of Vince Russo, his background. He was a journalist, bro, and he owned a video store. And then he wrote for Raw magazine, and Vince McMahon liked what he saw at Raw magazine, and he said, this is what we need to start doing on our program. And the Attitude Era happened. WWE had a big boom. SmackDown came along. Vince Russo was not given more money for that, so he wanted to find a way out.
And he felt burnt out.
That sounds like deja vu from the week before.
Yeah, it is. It's the same conundrum that Eric Bischoff found himself in. Of here's a second program, no more money, no more time, make it work. And that's how we got Vince Russo in WCW. Now, guys, I will throw it to you just for a general statement here. What did you think of the Vince Russo era of WCW? And I will start with Joe.
It was horrible. I hated it. It literally felt like, let me just throw a bunch of stuff up against the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah.
Like, just the things, like some of the creative things they did was unspeakable. Like what they did to what's his name? That 70s guy. I'm drawing a blank. Not
Oh, Mike Awesome. We talked about
What
him
they-
last week.
what they did to Mike Awesome is just unforgivable. The horrible gimmicks they did. Like they really talked about the Dave Arquette thing. I don't buy. I don't believe that it was Tony Schiavone who said, "Hey, let's pitch that David Arquette wins the
Yeah,
world."
we're not hearing Tony Schiavone denying it.
I've never even heard that story murmured until earlier today when I watched the episode, though.
Listen, Tony Schiavone, he would have been the first person to clear the. I did not. I think it's true.
I'm gonna have to check out his podcast and see if he said anything. Which that's not the first time I've heard that. I've heard before that he's the guy who came up with that.
Really, I've never heard that before.
I have heard that before, yeah. So I don't know how true it is, and I don't know if he's addressed it or responded to it. I might have to check out.
I'd be more interested if
agency.
If he pitched it like half joking, and Russo was like, "That sounds awesome, let's do it."
Here's what he took him aside from what he said.
Here's what he did. He came in the room and said, "Vince, I've got the greatest idea in the history of professional wrestling. Let's make David Arquette the fucking world champion."
I think you also have to understand Tony Schiavone's mindset too, because they're all trying to think of ways to save WCW and the sinking ship.
Yeah.
So he's throwing out a Hail Mary too, right?
Yeah. Essentially,
they're all trying to figure out a way that everyone can keep their jobs pretty much. Like they're all probably worried they're going to lose their jobs.
Yeah. But I do feel bad for David Arquette. Like when he wins the title and goes backstage and he's talking to Booker and he's like, "Oh man, Booker, how many times have you won this title?" And he's like, "Oh, I never have." He just you could just see the instant regret on his face.
"I never won any, sucker."
Now I think that they didn't do justice to Vince Russo at all. Because when Vince Russo first came in, he was giving all these people gimmicks that didn't have any gimmick.
Yeah, that's the story.
Like he was giving everyone more of a spotlight instead of being some jobber with no name, no importance. You now had a gimmick.
Yeah, and that's how WWE was when he was there too.
Yeah, it's brilliant. You got to have that sort of gimmick to your character, or no one cares about you.
Well, yeah, they referenced it in the show. Like all of the cruiserweights were happy that he was there because they were all getting the shine for once instead of
and they were making people who weren't the big names more elevated, which you needed to do. You need to make more stars. And Brett was finally being paid attention to now. They decided to make Brett the world champion.
Yeah.
And for what's worth, I think that the new NWO, if everyone didn't get injured, it could have done well.
Yeah.
Because Bret Hart is the leader and
Jeff
Jarrett.
But at that time, like the NWO was so watered down and
there was 4 people in it. They said
no. I'm just talking about the history of the NWO.
Yeah. Just the concept of it had been redone over and over.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So my feelings are, I have very mixed feelings about Russo. A lot of his ideas, obviously, hindsight's 2020. A lot of his ideas were really stupid, but at the same time, I agree with Canada Dry's point here that I like the fact that everybody on the show had a personality. And that's what was great about the Attitude Era in WWE as well. everybody had some kind of gimmick, everybody had some kind of personality, and everybody got a pop when they came out. That's a stark contrast to today, where half the roster comes out to no reaction at all on any show, AEW, WWE, TNA, whatever.
Like even at WCW's worst, weren't they like still in millions and millions of people watching at that point?
Yeah.
Even when they're sinking.
Yeah.
I mean, the ratings were declining, but they were still more
Better
than
than
every
most.
company combined today.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't overstate here how much more popular wrestling was back in this time. Insanely. And I talk about this a lot. Like, The Walking Dead in its prime got 10 million viewers. That was Raw's viewership back then. Can you imagine that? Like, they get 1.5 million to 2 million now. 10 million people used to watch.
That's like they barely get 2 million anymore.
Yeah. 6 million people used to watch WCW. 6 million.
Yeah.
No wrestling company's ever going to get 6 million people now. Like,
so
it's
wasn't
crazy.
WWE just a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago, weren't they at about 3 million people for Raw?
No.
I think they've been in the 2
Maybe more like
million.
5 years ago.
Yeah, I think they've been
5?
more
Okay.
than 2 million spear.
Just
for the
when
past few
AEW
years.
starting ish.
Yeah, they were around 3, and then the pandemic hit, and that just sort of
Brought them down a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, they're at like, I mean, I think their lowest number I saw in the past year or so was like 1.2 million.
Yeah, it's like 1.1, 1.2.
Yeah,
Which is
insanely low compared to what they used to be.
So next week we'll be doing the WCW final episode, and then the week after that, we're going to be talking. This is what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
Is the death of pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Like we're going to be
I got a lot to say about
Yeah,
it.
I don't want to talk too much on it because we got an hour to fill with that stuff.
Yeah. I got a lot to say about that. And if you've watched some older episodes of Magic, you've heard me say some of these things that I'm going to say. But yeah, I mean, we'll get into the weeds there, but it's going to be a very eye-opening episode for any younger fan that doesn't seem to realize how insanely popular pro wrestling was back in like the late 90s, early 2000s compared to today. I mean, it's completely different.
Not this Sunday, but the Sunday after that, we got the Real Drago from FTW Wrestling / NWA. He's going to be coming on our show, and this is going to be something we're going to debate because he believes wrestling is strong right now.
Oof.
I mean,
he's a young guy, right?
He's in his 20s, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, from his point of perspective, it is because he's 20 years old. He doesn't
Not 20,
know,
but in his 20s.
He's in his 20s. He probably doesn't even remember 97, 98 wrestling. He remembers the crapshoot that is 2010's WWE.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I can see why he takes that that approach.
And some people have the opinion too of, well, there's a lot more wrestling out there you can watch now, so of course it's better. But that's not quite how it works. I mean, quality.
Like the strength of for the business of the wrestlers, it's good. It's good right now.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the companies aren't getting nowhere near as much money as they should.
Mm-mm. No. I know that WWE technically makes more money now than they did then, but there's two caveats to that. One is inflation, and two is the fact that it's all tied up in like international television deals. Yeah. It's not like they're just drawing hundreds of thousands of people to every show. It's not that.
Yeah, because it's really funny. Like you look at everyone's big deal right now is oh, AEW can't sell out crowds. 5 years ago, WWE couldn't sell out a crowd.
Right.
It's a cyclical thing. It is what it is.
Yeah.
So let's get back to WCW because we don't want to burn out all our discussion on this.
But anyways, what I was saying about Vince Russo, like I said, kind of a double-edged sword. I like some of the things he did creatively. Obviously, he strayed pretty heavy away from the wrestling-centric product of WCW. So it's like kind of a double-edged sword here.
You know why? Because he said multiple times on this episode, I was writing a TV show. He never once said, I'm writing a wrestling program.
Exactly.
Like, I'm writing a wrestling TV show.
Yep.
Or I'm wrestling a television, writing a TV show.
It was Crash TV, which is what they used to call it, back in the end, where it's like super short segments of just crazy stuff going on.
In your face.
Yeah. Go ahead, Aaron.
So we have the decision to put the belt on David Arquette.
Yes.
Whether it's Tony Schiavone's idea, whether it's Vince Russo's idea, it doesn't really matter, really. The decision has been made. And the idea is that now it's gonna trend. It's in People Magazine or whatever. And they're taking a little bit of short-term heat for a long-term gain is the idea behind this.
Yeah.
Once again, WCW's major problem. Great idea, piss poor execution and closing on the idea.
And see, that's the biggest criticism of Vince Russo's writing / booking style was that it's all about living in the moment. And then it's like, well, what do you had to move forward with at that point?
Yeah, no continuity, right?
Yeah, like he was always referred to as a hot shotter, right? Like he gave you all this crazy shit up front.
He would be the Young Bucks of writing.
Oh, if he had partnered with the Young Bucks back in the day, like if Russo and his prime had got together with the Young Bucks, they would have been like that.
What you're saying is it would have been the Russo driver, not the Meltzer driver.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. So let's get to the next point.
I just want to comment quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I really believe that without this championship reign for David Arquette, maybe we don't get the same Booker T that we have today. This launched Booker T.
Yeah, because he came out and made that comment the next week about how guys like Booker T should have this. Yeah,
that was the flame that started it all. So
that's a very good point. I mean, we could get into a lot of butterfly effects here.
Yeah.
Of if this one little thing was tinged differently, a whole chain of events could have been changed. For anybody that doesn't know what we're talking about, the butterfly effect, the old
great
story.
movie.
You go back in time. It's an old classic literature book too. You go back in time, you step on a butterfly, then you go back to the present time, and that set off a chain of micro events that turned into big events that completely flipped the entire planet because you stepped on a butterfly like 50 years ago.
Oh, I'm gonna have to watch the Butterfly Effect tonight.
Just watch the Simpsons episode of the Butterfly.
No.
You want the Ashton Kutcher?
No, you don't want any of those sequels of the Butterfly Effect. They're horrible.
I never watched any of the sequels.
No, don't.
The movie gets kind of dark. It's got like child stuff, and it gets kind of dark.
Oh yeah, my favorite part of the movie is when he goes back to be a kid, and he goes to end that guy's reign of sexual molestation on the kids. Yeah. And it just freaks the shit out of it because he's just talking like adult. He shouldn't have this ability.
Yeah. Yep.
Having the intelligence of an adult as a kid, that would be bizarre.
I'll tell you,
it would definitely freak some people out.
Yeah, I just thought of something. It'd be like a really good podcast we could do on an offshoot. Get JFB in here, and we should talk about the different types of time travel that are in movies. Because there's like the butterfly effect where this affects that. Then you have like the MCU where and Back to the Future where you create parallel lines and it's like you're creating a new reality type thing. Be fun.
Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
The only way you can generate that much electricity is through a bolt of lightning. What did you say? A bolt of lightning. 1.21 gigawatts.
No, definitely the best of the time traveling movies is Back to the Future.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. I love that movie.
Now we're past the time where he goes into the future now,
Yes.
Mhm.
and we don't have those trees that are glowing.
No.
Or like the real hoverboards.
Yeah,
Yeah, the Mattel Barbie branded hoverboards that the little girls are going around the park.
However, the Cubs did win the World Series.
They did. I like to go back in time, put some money on the Cubbies. That old man he runs into.
Speaking of sports, I have to gloat because the Florida Panthers won.
I saw that, yeah.
And so I never had that much joy for spite.
Now, explain that, because I know that like you were going against the Canadian team here.
Yes.
And I saw you explain in the chat, but go ahead and tell the viewers here why that was.
All right. So I am a Canuck fan. I love the Vancouver Canucks. That's my hometown. I bleed blue and green or whatever color they have at the time. Like they're red in there, so that's what I bled then. There's real hate between Edmonton and Vancouver.
Hmm.
Like some of the fans they're about to win the Stanley Cup, and they're still talking smack about Vancouver. Like, okay, you're not focused on the goal here. You're talking shit on us. That's how much they hate us.
Wow.
We hate them as much, and so no Canadian team wants the other teams to be the one that finally bring the cup back to Canada.
I got you.
It's like, no, it's us.
Us or nobody, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I got two things about the finals. How weird is it that Connor McDavid won like the finals MVP being on the losing team?
You know what? He didn't come out to get the trophy.
Oh, wow.
I've never heard of that happening.
That it very rarely ever happens.
The MVP's on the losing team.
And they don't come out to get the trophy.
Wow. I did see a meme that I guess is accurate. I don't know. But that a guy on the winning hockey team and a guy on the winning basketball team were like friends growing up.
High school best friends.
And they were both on championship teams in the NBA and NHL respectively this year. Like, how wild is that?
That is really cool. They both get to celebrate their championships together.
Yeah, there was like a picture of them on a school bus with their arm around each other.
And then I got one more thing. I can't imagine taking the legitimate Stanley Cup and jumping into the Atlantic Ocean with it.
Yes. They got to do some salt protection on that thing.
That's what I'm saying. I can't imagine, like, the person who has to sit there and hand polish that cup is very happy at the moment.
So
is this a thing? Explain this. I'm not aware of this.
Okay, so you get the Stanley Cup. That team has it until the hockey season starts.
Mm-hmm.
They get to do whatever they want to that thing. The players each get it for a certain amount of time over the off season. To do like they get a week with it probably. They could have sex on that thing every night. They probably are. Come on.
I don't know. It can't be too comfortable.
What? Come on. You could do some crazy moves on that thing.
But Joe, after this program, is going to go do some Googling to see if he can find some evidence of this.
Oh, come on. You wouldn't like if you had the Stanley Cup and you had a sexy wife and you're like, let's fuck on the cup.
That is
you
true.
could get her to do doggy style on the cup.
You know, I did not have.
My son is sitting right next to me, please.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm so sorry. I did not know.
Okay, he just came down.
I did not have activities on the Stanley Cup trophy on my bingo card for this evening, fellas. But
but yeah,
after dark.
Yeah, the Oilers. It's purely like a revenge thing, and our goalie is our best all-time goalie, Roberto Luongo,
Hmm.
now works for them in their front office. So he got to hoist the Stanley Cup. So it's kind of like we got something out of it.
Yeah.
Championship by proxy.
Yes.
The only goalie
And-
that I could ever remember is that guy, Patrick Wall.
Yep.
Yeah. I just remember back in like the 90s, he was like the best goalie.
Yeah, for the Colorado
Yeah.
Avalanche.
And the Montreal Canadiens.
And
And me and
Montreal
my
Canadiens.
friend, when we would play fight, we would go, Patrick, wah!
All I know is when I was a kid, like that blew my mind. I'm like, that's Patrick Roy. Why are they saying wow?
Yeah.
We would also when we'd play wrestle, we'd go bam, bam, and the other one would say Bigelow.
Bad Bigelow.
Oh.
Did one of you have the flames on you, like the flames on your shirt?
No, we had those stretchy wrestlers. Do you remember the stretchy wrestlers?
Oh, I don't know if I remember.
Vaguely,
the
yeah.
second one.
Like the
They
little
were
ones
like
that you could-
Stretch Armstrong, but they were WWF wrestlers.
Oh, okay. I don't recall ever having those. I had a ton of the Hasbro figures, but I don't remember those.
They had an episode of Stampede Wrestling where Corporal Kirshner, do you remember Corporal Kirshner?
Yeah.
He was working for Stampede Wrestling, and the guy he was against ripped the head off of Corporal Kirshner WWF and emptied it out of the sand and said, "This is what you are, Yella."
Oh wow.
That was pretty good.
Back when promos were badass.
Yeah.
Now it's all like, you're not my friend anymore. I'm gonna beat you up. I guess we should get to the next point here that I was gonna bring up. And it's the idea of Vince Russo as an on-screen character. Now, Vince Russo made an interesting comment here that I saw he was already getting quite a bit of flack for online. He said, "Bro, I was a better on-screen character than 80% of the roster, bro." What do you think of his assertion that he was a better on-screen character than 80% of WCW's roster?
Well, he's clearly
bro.
full of himself.
Yeah.
Like to say that and still believe it to this day.
It's a pretty bold claim. Yeah.
I mean,
Like you had such talent there at that time too.
if he was better than 80%, then like why didn't he save WCW?
Yeah.
Because he wasn't a draw, bro.
Basically.
I
I
only
don't
assume-
mind that he was an on-screen character.
Yeah, I didn't either. Yeah.
I didn't like that he put the WCW belt on himself.
Yeah.
That was ridiculous. Yeah. That was stupid.
But you're looking at the other show at this time. Is they got Vince McMahon as a character too, fighting
and
Stone
putting
Cold.
the belt on himself.
Well, that was much later.
Yeah,
Still did. I mean, it's still
Yeah, but like as an on-screen authority character, I thought he was great, but where he got too like I want to talk about this. Let's go ahead, Joe, and your thought on this but I will never want to move to.
We'll come back to you.
yeah, like Russo, like you said, like at that time, like it was all about like heel authority figures on TV. But yeah, like it felt really like for as bad as it was putting the title on Arquette, this was probably just as bad, if not worse.
I would
Because
agree with that. Yeah.
like that's literally just saying, like you're literally telling everyone, I can do your job better than you. I don't need you. Is basically what he's saying. And that's
It's pretty
just
bold.
blatantly false. Because even like I don't understand how he can have the gall to sit there and say I'm better than 80% of you when he's in the same episode, the same breath says I was never a good wrestler. Well, then you're not better than 80% of the roster.
I think once, because this is another important point we have to talk about is the SummerSlam, or not sorry, SummerSlam, the Bash at the Beach, 2000.
Yeah.
Because that's where he's accountable to other people.
there's still so much weird ambiguity there. It's like everybody has a different story of what happened, and it seems like it changes every few years.
This is where Hogan dropped the belt, and then Russo came out and did that shoot promo, right? And then Hogan sued WCW.
Yeah.
See, this is my favorite thing about Vince Russo here, is that he's doing what he needs to do to get the belt on Booker T.
Yeah.
He's like, and Eric Bischoff says in this thing that he's going into business for himself. It's like, no, he's trying to steer the ship to get the belt on Booker T. He's not going
trying
into
to get it away from Hogan.
Yeah. And really, Hogan's been in business for himself the whole time anyways.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
So, for him to say that is complete, utter bullshit.
And it's basically and they didn't really get too into the weeds about this here, but from my understanding of everything that I've seen about this incident was that they were all in agreement on it, but then when Hogan left, he didn't realize that Vince was going to get on the mic and cut that scathing promo about him. And apparently the scathing promo was what he was offended by, and that led to the big issue with WCW then.
Well, the original plan between them was that Hulk Hogan was going to go away with the title. They were going to crown a new champion.
Yeah.
And then they would meet later on in the fall when Hogan would come back, and they would
the real champion versus the champion. Yeah.
Yes. But Vince Russo had no intentions of following through with this.
Yeah. He just wanted
they wanted to do the. So what you're saying is Hogan advised Punk on his summer of Punk in ROH is what you're saying.
Yeah. Essentially.
I am honestly surprised Hogan hasn't told that story.
It's like, it was my idea, brother.
And the summer of Punk in WWE too, he did the same thing where he won the
summer of Punk, WWE.
He won the title, walked away. Cena was the champion, and then he came back with his WWE title, and I'm the real champion. It did the same thing. Yeah.
Like for me, this to me is Vince Russo. I think this is a crowning achievement in WCW, like to stand his ground and to say "fuck you" to Hogan.
Yeah,
Bishop.
That's true. Yeah,
I admired him for what he did there because.
Well, I mean, and honestly, I think for this period of dysfunction, it falls on this TV executive, the guy who's doing commentary in the show, because clearly he didn't make the pecking order clear at all as to who was in charge.
Yeah.
Was it Russo? Was it Bischoff? Because throughout this whole episode, Russo was like, I'm never told that he's my boss.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to do it, just do it. And then Bischoff is like, I'm in charge of creative. It just so much. It is amazing WCW lasted as long as it did.
They played both sides of the fence. Yeah.
Well, the thing about that is Hogan. He had that creative control, and it was holding the company hostage.
Oh, absolutely.
You can't give somebody creative control like that. You're just completely fucking everything up. How can you do long-term booking when somebody has 100% absolute veto power?
Do you know who else had creative control in 1997?
Brett did. Yeah.
This is a question I have. Why did he not sue them for that?
I don't know.
That always
because he punched Vance and was afraid of a countersuit or something. I don't know.
I'd be curious as to how, if Hogan has creative control and Brett has creative control, who supersedes who? Once again, another dichotomy of
if that ever to happen,
yeah,
they just couldn't work with each other, I guess.
Yeah, unless you guys can work out an ending, then you guys can't work together.
It'd be a stalemate. They would just have to not work together. They'd have to work with someone else.
Brett only had creative control for last 90 days.
in WWE only.
Yeah.
He didn't have it in WCW. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Hogan had absolute 100% veto power over anything involving him in WCW for his entire run there, which is why he only did what he wanted to do, and that's it. And you just can't do that. Like, I don't care how big of a star a guy is, you've got to be able to make a booking decision independent of them. I mean, it's ridiculous.
The other thing I think is that as a result of him with doing this grandstand, which is his greatest moment, is that he then almost gets out of control with power, I think.
Yeah.
Like he's like, this is my show now. Like, but yeah, I think that was a result of him like winning that sort of fight, and then he got lost control. The wheels just went all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, this is when things really just got kind of crazy. They discussed the Radicals, you know, Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, and Perry Saturn. How they all were not very satisfied when Vince Russo ended up getting removed. And Kevin Sullivan ended up taking the book back because they all did not like Kevin Sullivan. Benoit especially. You know, I know Benoit's not a sympathetic figure, and I'm not in any way saying that.
That's a story for another podcast.
That's a story for another time, but he had legitimate hardcore heat with Kevin Sullivan. I mean, Kevin Sullivan was the ex-husband of woman, Nancy. So
who was
caused a lot of heat. Yeah. Caused a lot of heat between them. And when Kevin Sullivan came back in and took the book over, they all collectively said, that's not going to work for me, brother, and left. This is so stupid because I remember this. They tried to make them happy. They put the belt on Benoit. Benoit beat Sid for the WCW Heavyweight Championship, left, and was on Raw, I think, the next night.
No, I thought it was like 2 weeks.
I think
it might have been. I thought it was the next night. Yeah,
I'm not
because his contract was up.
Once again, no, his contract wasn't up. They asked for their release, and someone said yes, but didn't tell the left, didn't tell the right what was going on.
Right. That's what they said in this episode.
They tried to get him to stay by putting the belt on him, and then he left right afterwards and never made an appearance again in WCW. How stupid. How do you let something like that happen? That's absurd. Yeah. Like, if that doesn't tell you the mismanagement of WCW, especially during this time period, like, that is insane. Vince McMahon would have never let that happen. No. Obviously, would never have let that happen because he didn't let Bret Hart keep the title. And they put the belt on a guy who left and literally never came back.
He could have showed up on Raw with that title the next day and dumped it in the garbage.
That title could have had a second run in WWE after Ric Flair's run in the early 90s. It's just insane. What did you all think of the Radicals jumping ship and going to WWE?
I remember thinking, like, why do they want Dean Malenko part of that? Dean Malenko, like, he's a fine wrestler.
Yeah, he's a great technical wrestler.
But he is void of any charisma whatsoever.
He has no personality at all.
Yeah,
none.
And he does not have a great look.
No.
His most charismatic thing is when he was Cyclope in that Battle Royal to get at Jericho.
Yeah. I mean, he was a great technician. He was a great wrestler. Yep. He had a good run as WCW Cruiserweight champion and was one of those guys that brought a lot of prestige early on to that Cruiserweight division. He was an ECW guy, transferred to WCW, and then, of course, went to WWE as part of the Radicals. So
I would go first. I would go Eddie Guerrero out of the Radicals. Then I would go. Unfortunately, I would have to go with Benoit.
There's no choice behind it.
Yeah, like it's like I hate I have to pick him, but even though he's a horrible, whatever, we'll talk about that. Then you got Perry Saturn, and then you got Dean Malenko.
In my opinion, I think Benoit was the best. I think Eddie was second, Perry Saturn, and then Malenko.
Or you could go 1A, 1B. Because they're both pretty damn good.
I mean, they were both amazing. I don't even want to. I don't know. I don't want to give Benoit credit. Look, I'm talking about him just strictly as a wrestler, like not as a human being.
Look. When we do this, you got to separate the art from the artist.
But Benoit, to me, was the second best technical wrestler that I can ever recall seeing under Brett, in my opinion.
You think he's better than Owen?
Yeah, I do.
You think he's better than Danielson now?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Okay, but the thing about Benoit is I don't think he was great on the mic.
No, he had no charisma at all.
No, he had no charisma.
Because the two radicals who weren't very good on the mic in Malenko and Benoit were part of the Four Horsemen.
His match with Brett.
You look at Eddie Guerrero, and he's got both. He's good on the mic.
Eddie's a better overall talent,
for
sure. I mean, as far as just like a pure wrestler goes, I think Benoit was a little better. That's just my opinion. But Eddie was more the total package for sure. Absolutely. It's like comparing Sean to Brett. It's kind of similar.
I think Brett was very fond of Benoit back when he was in WCW. He tried to really take him under his wing.
Yeah. I mean, Benoit was a dungeon guy. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they knew each other really well. But I mean, he had a great match with Brett in WCW, the Owen tribute, and some of his WWE matches were just killer too. I mean, that match he had with Kurt Angle, where they were just chain wrestling at a super fast rate. I mean, it was phenomenal. It was a great match. How did I discover Baby Metal? I think I heard them on Sirius XM Octane. I heard the song Karate, and I think that was the first song I remember hearing of Baby Metal. Random question, but I'll answer it.
if you want to interact, we gotta let him. So,
yeah. Do you guys like Baby Metal?
I've never heard it. I don't know what this is.
Never heard of it.
So Baby Metal, if I could describe it, it's these like little Japanese like pop girls, and they sing kind of a pop style, but they have like a metal band backing them. It's interesting. It's almost like J-pop and metal blended together. Look it up.
Okay,
it's interesting.
All right, well,
I mean, they do like rock festivals and stuff around here. Yeah, I mean,
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm probably not going to look it up.
So the other thing I want to talk about that's reoccurring as we dissect this WCW thing is that Goldberg is a big part of the destruction of WCW.
If I were to kill Russo, he'd be at the ground.
How? So because he doesn't die, it's okay. Is pretty much what he's saying.
That spear was brutal. That spear that he hit on Russo and like his head bounced off the guardrail. That was brutal.
Yeah, for Russo to say, I was almost killed. He's very right.
Yeah.
You know what, Russo? Don't put yourself in that position. You're not a trained wrestler.
No.
Sorry.
Well, let's be honest. It doesn't matter who it was.
Or as Russo himself would say, I was in there and I was wrestling.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who it was. Russo, Goldberg would have done the same thing to them if it was a professional wrestler.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have mattered.
He was way too stiff. Way too stiff.
Like, to me, Goldberg was part of the blame of why WCW failed.
I disagree. I don't think
I'm not sure I would blame.
Because if you have a trained Goldberg, you're making way more money.
Not really. Not when you have Eric Bischoff giving away Hogan and Goldberg on free TV. There are so many more people that
Bret Hart doesn't retire. You still have Bret Hart.
I
every
wish to
week.
God Brett had wrestled into the Ruthless Aggression era
Yeah.
I
when
understand that.
Sean was in his
But there's so
prime.
many more
Taker.
people who bear so much more
No,
responsibility.
I'm not saying it's all Goldberg. I'm saying he's part of it.
It's a cog in the wheel. Yeah.
Yeah. That's all I'm
He's a
saying.
cog,
there's
he's
a lot of
small
moving
cog.
parts.
He's
here.
not. He's not the catalyst.
No, he is not. He is. You're driving down the highway, and you're driving on metal.
I think Goldberg was more of the symptom than the disease.
Yes, absolutely. You can. That is a fair assessment.
Yeah, because you rush Goldberg because you're worried about losing, but you got to take the time to do the little things right. If you don't have a solid foundation, the house comes crashing down.
Yeah.
And they were always rushing things. Let's instead of like I guess that's the difference we're doing going for a home run and manufacturing a run in baseball.
Small ball or the long ball, baby.
Yeah, you take small ball will win every time.
Yep.
If you can play the defense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So WCW was always going for that home run.
Oh yeah.
And more than often, it never made it out of the park.
Now, the way that this ended, because we're kind of at the end of all the talking points here, was that Russo kind of sums up his experience at the very end of the program and says, I hate the professional wrestling business, bro. I hate the business, even though I've been doing a podcast about it for like 10 years and I talk about it repeatedly, constantly, and I've been begging every promotion on earth to hire me. We'll just forget about that, bro. I hate the business, bro. The wrestling business. So what do you guys think of Russo's statement here at the very end of the show?
I don't believe it.
Is it just kind of doing it just for sensationalism? Which obviously Russo plays up sensationalism a lot. How many times do you hear him say, I'm going to tell you the absolute truth, bro. The 1,000%
If
truth.
you have to tell me you're telling the truth, you're lying.
Yeah, you got to question them a little bit.
Well, what do y'all think of this? Vince Russo says he hates the wrestling business.
I could see why.
Yeah.
You know what?
I could see why.
I think he probably hates the business, but I think he's addicted to the limelight that comes with it.
Here's the thing, though. He can make money off of the business. It's still putting bread on the table.
Yeah.
So, like, what else is he going to do at this point?
Nothing.
He never moved on.
Exactly. So he's kind of stuck. So if he does hate it, it's like, that's the only thing I'm going to make money off of right now still.
Like he literally never, I guess he never even tried to do anything else. He just rode the coattails of wrestling. Obviously after WCW ended, he went on to write for TNA for a while. And, he was kind of on again, off again with TNA up until the Hogan Bischoff era. And we know how that went. And he had a very, very brief, and I mean like a couple of days stint coming back to the WWE as a consultant.
Oh, I didn't even know about this.
Yeah. This was after WCW had ended, a couple of years. They had reached out to Vince Russo, and Russo was going to come back in creative. And apparently he had some idea that I guess everybody just universally fucking hated. And like the next day, he was like told that they didn't need him anymore.
So he started out with a bad idea.
Yeah. Yeah. But he had like a brief, like look it up. He had like a brief, like 1 or 2 day stint.
I think I vaguely remember that now that you're saying that.
Yeah.
Like, wasn't he like head of creative on SmackDown or something like that?
Something like that. And then they just quickly pushed him to a consultant and then they just let him go entirely. Like apparently whatever idea he presented to Vince was so god awful that they're just like, nope, get him out of here.
He's like, bro, make me the champion.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing this in the dirt sheets and then just learning like not even knowing what he was doing there, and then you just see, oh, he's no longer there.
They didn't really talk about this on the program, and I don't know if they're going to talk about this on the next one or not. But what Vince Russo was a big fan of the worked shoot, right? And we saw a lot of that during his time in WCW. The Dustin Rhodes 7 thing, the work shoot, acting like he had a legitimate feud with Goldberg. Remember, Goldberg like quit during a match and just quit selling for Kevin Nash and left. And then Russo came out with Tank Abbott and said, I got a real fighter. It's going to kick your ass, Goldberg. And made it like he was putting a legitimate guy out there with no theme music or anything to just beat up Bill Goldberg. And do you guys remember this stuff? I mean, they did all kinds of weird worked shoots during this time.
Yeah, he was big on that.
Yeah. Trying to, blur the lines, ambiguity, but it just kind of pushed it a little too hard, in my opinion, in retrospect.
I mean, yeah, but to lighten it up a little bit, the best thing that Tank Abbott ever did was his work with 3 Count and the Young Dragons.
Oh, it was good.
Have you seen Tank Abbott? He was on Joe Rogan's podcast like a couple weeks ago.
I have not recently seen him.
He looks like a retired science teacher. Like
he had a lot of weight, and
he lost a ton of weight. He was wearing glasses. He had like a Hawaiian button-up shirt. I mean, he looked like a retired science teacher. Not as big. It was trimmed. I mean, he looked like a proper man. Like, it was weird to see Tank Abbott like that. Tank was supposed to be a monster. That's how I remember him.
Hence the name.
I think the biggest thing for this era of WCW is he never stuck with the gimmicks or the story he was going with.
Yeah,
there was the continuity was horrible. He might have gotten us right into it, but then the next week we're like, "What's going on now? It's not even that anymore." And they didn't explain why.
I feel like this is the same thing that happened in TNA, because I feel like I would watch TNA from week to week, and it's like one week someone's a heel, then they're a face, and they're heel. Like, it's very much just flip flop, wishy washy. Like, it's almost like you don't even need to watch the show.
It was live for the moment. There was nothing long term at all. It was all just what's entertaining right now. Put it out there right now, hot shot it, and then next week we'll just do some different shit.
Would you remember the No Limit Soldiers?
Yep.
Oh, Master P.
Yeah. And then it was just gone.
Remember they got booed? They got booed because people liked Kurt Hennig's like anti-rap faction better.
Rap is
it just disappeared. It just wasn't there anymore.
Yeah. It's because they had some kind of like
the West Texas Rednecks.
Yeah.
The West Texas Rednecks were cool.
They were supposed to be the heels, and everybody was cheering them and booing the No Limit Soldiers.
Because they were so funny when they did it too.
It was great. I loved it.
I think they brought in the No Limit Soldiers because they were always in the Atlanta area, and Master P was a rat from that area, so you figure you'd get the hometown pop.
Yeah. Yep. And remember they took the mask off Rey Mysterio, and the filthy animals were aligned with them, and it was like, oh god.
Yeah, it went from the No Limit Soldiers to the
filthy animals. Ray and Conan and
Billy
which were also in the No Limit Soldiers.
Yeah, Hoovy was in there.
Billy Kidman was in the Filthy Animals, and Tori, I believe, was with Billy.
Yeah, because they were a legit couple for years.
Yeah, quite a while.
I can't believe we haven't discussed this guy in the whole time.
Billy Kidman?
No, David Flair.
David Flair. He's just kind of a footnote. Yeah.
David Flair was one of the big things that they were trying to do. He was pretty much the mid-card Goldberg.
He was awful. Yeah. Was it? I don't guess it was on this show. I don't suppose, but I saw a clip not too long ago of him in a match with somebody. I don't even remember who it was. And
no, they had a quick clip of it on this show that we're talking.
Yeah, about. And he had no clue what he was doing. No. It was just awful.
David Flair is jealous of Charlotte.
I would say.
I don't know, because I don't even think he really wanted anything to do with the wrestling business, to be honest with you.
As far as I know, and Mark Madden, WCW commentator who was working with Ric Flair on his podcast before he switched to Conrad. When they had their falling out, he had mentioned something about how David was like estranged from Rick and they don't speak.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know if that's been resolved or what, but he had made some kind of mention that David has no relationship with Rick.
Not surprised by that at all.
I'm not surprised by that at all either. So,
But it's cool learning something like that. That's
yeah. Now you can look that up. Mark Madden said that, but yeah. So
The one that he
it
said-
doesn't surprise me.
he was supposed to be the Jerry the King Lawler of WCW. His thing was Smoochy Doochie. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Smoochy Doochie.
Mark Madden, I don't think he was bad on commentary. I really don't.
No, but like Jerry the King Lawler saying puppies,
Yeah.
and you're saying Smoochy Doochie.
He's trying to like have his own shtick. Yeah.
Oh, that's like no. That was like it didn't make sense to me. I'm like, what is this? What is Smoochy Doochie?
Madden is one of those guys too that he's a bit pompous, and he thinks because I think he was good as a commentator, but he had that brief stint doing commentary, so now he thinks he's like a wrestling genius and knows everything about it. Kind of like a Disco Inferno, but as a commentator. It's like
Well, he thinks he takes himself too seriously. In other words,
yeah, like he thinks he knows everything about the business, and you don't
like
know
he's a
shit.
footnote in wrestling history.
Yeah.
Like
So.
you're not like if you're gonna pick a top 50, does he even make your announcers top 50?
50?
Probably because of how
Maybe 50. Maybe he's in the
Can
top.
you even come up with 50 announcers? Like, I don't even know I can even name 50 announcers.
Okay. Maybe 20. Does he make your 20?
maybe at 20. Maybe.
Probably towards the end of the pack. Yeah. I would say so. I mean, I would put because he was a color guy and he played a heel.
Yeah.
He was very witty. He was funny. He's a professional broadcaster. He's a sports radio guy. So like he had the good voice and everything. I think he was all right.
Do you know who my favorite color guy is?
Heenan.
Jesse the Body Ventura.
Oh yeah, Jesse's probably my favorite too. I love
Jesse. The way he would shoot on McMahon too, like that.
Yeah.
Like this insulting your boss. Like how awesome is that?
Yeah, I'm different than you two. Like I hate heel commentators with a passion. I feel like they try to make it too much about themselves instead of selling the stories.
Come on, Bobby the Brain Eater was the best, and so
yeah, he was. No, I'm talking about like now. It's
okay.
Too much.
So you're okay with Jesse and Bobby?
Yeah, like Jesse, like because it was for me, it was new. It was something different. But I'm talking about now, like your Corey Graves. Can't.
What about the King? The King gets a pass?
No, towards the end, it was annoying.
King was one of those guys that he was absolutely great at it like 20 years prior to when he should have quit. So like he was great back in the Attitude Era, but then like it really kind of got long in the tooth, and his greatest hits wore out.
The wrestling product changed, and he didn't change with it.
Yeah, that's true. You can't do puppies in like 2015. He was still around doing some commentary here and there. It just wasn't much of a thing, but I think Lawler was great. I'm with you, Aaron. I think Jesse Ventura was like the best at it.
Well, he's my introduction.
He's here,
too.
and Heenan's like probably here, like right below him. Yeah.
Well, Heenan and Gorilla together are just so beautiful.
I loved Heenan as like when he was doing his comedy thing, like in WWF when he got kicked out and he would dress up as the old lady and all that stuff. Like that was great.
Yeah. Trying to get into Monday Night Raw.
Yep.
I absolutely hated Mike Tenay.
Oh, I never liked Tenay either.
I liked him in WCW. I liked him in TNA as well.
Sorry, not Mike Tenay. I'm sorry. The living legend Larry Zbyszko.
Yeah, I was never a big Larry Zbyszko fan.
Yeah, Zbyszko was great. I loved Mongo. I thought Mongo McMichael was great on commentary. Did you like him?
He was better at that than he was wrestling.
Yeah, he was a shit wrestler, but he had a lot of charisma and he was a good speaker.
Okay, Macho Man or Roddy Piper?
Macho Man.
Piper.
I think Piper too.
Yeah. I mean, Savage.
Macho Man, like he can't really comment properly. Oh, it's a back body drop, yeah.
Yeah, Piper's he's got the better stick for that, better voice.
I've never really heard Piper like on commentary for matches, so
yeah, it was. I mean, he had
this
a
was
few
when the
brief
new
spots.
gen was just starting.
Yeah, this was like early, like 91, 92, something like that. Yeah.
Oh, I probably wasn't watching. I was watching WCW at the time as a little kid, so.
You were watching Big Van Vader and Ron Simmons.
And Sting and Cactus Jack and Ric
Now,
Flair.
Macho Man shouldn't have been in the commentary position at this point either. He was still wrestling really good matches.
The fact that McMahon forced him to retire in commentary is ridiculous.
Like, we missed a lot of really good, like, championship Bret Hart versus Macho Man matches.
Well, we talked about this on Magic on the What Ifs episode this past weekend, and one of mine was, what if Savage had never had the bullshit retirement, and they were going to allegedly they were going to plan him and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania? Like, how great would that have been? I mean, that would have been one of the greatest matches ever.
Like Macho Man HBK at Mania, Macho Man and Bret Hart at Mania, Macho Man Owen Hart at Mania.
I prefer Bret and Macho over Shawn and Macho.
Well, of course
Big
you
surprise.
But look, like, you could have had all of those, is what I'm saying. You could have had Bret, you could have had Shawn, you could have had Owen.
Do you know what match I would have? Because this goes to the dark side of the ring with Adrian Adonis, where Bret Hart goes, me and Adrian could have had a big match for the title had he not died.
Yeah.
Like, Adrian was really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, for a big man.
Yeah. I've seen some of his I've seen some of his New Japan matches on New Japan World before. Yeah, the guy could really go. He could work. For sure. Chomp on this. Randy Savage in a bloody brawl against a prime Stone Cold Steve Austin. How great would that be?
We're talking Macho Man when he's all like jacked up, right?
Yeah, I mean,
when he was the prime peak of Macho Madness.
Yeah. We're talking like
in WCW.
I would say like 98 Randy Savage, when he hadn't quite turned into Hercules yet. He was still kind of the more slender, like athletic.
He wasn't Bonesaw yet.
Right, he wasn't Bonesaw. That transformation happened in like late 99 into 2000. Now I'm talking like 1998 Randy Savage.
Yeah.
NWO Randy Savage. If he had went up in a bloody brawl against Stone Cold Steve Austin, like how great would that have been?
I imagine it would have been probably a little bit better than what we got with Macho Man and DDP, honestly. Because for me, Macho Man DDP is like probably DDP's greatest work in WCW.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I mean, they had a great feud. It's one of the best feuds in WCW's history, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think DDP was very underappreciated. I really do. Like,
I agree with you.
I mean, he was their people's champion. He had that moniker before The Rock even used it.
So since we're doing the butterfly effect,
okay,
my butterfly effect, it changed the Iron Man match between Bret and Shawn, and it became Bret and Macho Man.
Ooh.
That's what happened in the butterfly effect.
Do you think that would have been?
But like I said, I've been on record. I hate that Iron Man match with a passion.
I honestly think Macho Man is better than Shawn. And I think with their two combined psychologies together, that match would have been the greatest match in history.
See, I want to say that
their brains are just so like freaking awesome.
Like
they would have worked really well together.
I do want to defend let you guys know why I hate that Iron Man match so much.
Yeah,
it's because it's just one very long, boring match.
It gets a little.
The purpose of an Iron Man match is always more than one finish. That's why it's an Iron Man match.
Now, but your problem with this is you're like saying, if this is like saying, I hate season 1 of The Simpsons. Because without season 1, you don't have the good Simpsons in the next couple series that come out. That's your problem.
I guess I hate them both then, don't I?
Because this is the episode 1, and it grows.
You don't like the Simpsons when they have the like warped looking heads because the animation sucks.
Homer's voice is a bit different.
I didn't see that till many, many years after I started watching The Simpsons. So I saw that first season on the whatever show was on. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Bart's like, hey,
was it the Tracy Ullman show?
Cow, man.
They debuted on the Tracy Ullman show.
Now, I'm a big, I don't know if you guys probably aren't Star Trek guys, but I love Star Trek The Next Generation.
Mm-hmm.
But I always recommend skipping season 1.
Season 1 of any show usually is shitty. Yeah.
Because the evolution really happens in the second season. And there's a lot of really corny things that are really close to the original Star Trek in the first season.
I think that's kind of the rule of just about any TV show. The first season usually sucks of just about any show.
Or they waste all their great ideas in the first season and they fall off.
That happens sometimes too. Yeah. For
like that happened with Heroes. Heroes started out really well.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just fell off the cliff.
They blew their wad on the first season.
Yes.
And that was it.
Like, save the cheerleaders, save the world. Now they're like, now what?
Lost the plot.
Yeah.
So
that's another show, Lost.
That is another show. I've never watched Lost, but I know it was super popular.
No, because I was watching Heroes. You can't watch them both. So I was.
All right, gentlemen. I think that kind of takes us to the end of episode 3 of Who Killed WCW. I will pass this over to Mr. Dry. Let him do whatever closing festivities he's got going on, and we'll reconvene in a week.
Does someone want to give the Just Keep Fighting speech, or is it on me?
It's on you, but I do want to give a shout out. I think we would be remiss if we didn't mention that Roman Reigns' father passed away today.
Oh, yeah.
So rest in peace to him. And also, Pat McAfee missed Raw last night because his father-in-law unexpectedly passed away.
Oh, no.
Since, he was in I read he was in the hospital for, an infection. He was supposed to come home on Sunday. He was getting ready to be.
So, tell you what I'm going to do. Instead of pissing on the grave, I'm going to give the Just Keep Fighting speech. And then I'm going to end with the 10-bell salute.
All right.
For Pat McAfee's father and for Sika. Sika was a big part of my childhood.
Yeah.
The head shrinkers, man. They were.
But Kamala and Sika were tag team partners. You remember that?
I don't recall that, no.
Yeah, Sika would come on and he would just be eating a salmon and ripping it apart.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, they always played at the Ooga Booga, I'm a wild Samoan man thing. Yeah.
So he was like the equivalent to Kamala.
Yeah.
But it is Mental Health Awareness Month. Just remember, if you are down, that's okay. But you can't stay there. You got to get up. You got to pick yourself up, dust yourself off. And if you need to reach out to a friend or two, reach out to us, reach out to family. You got to, whatever it does, see a professional. But you got to get up. You can't stay down. Raise up your fist, put the devil in a sharpshooter, and just keep fighting. Wait, did we just give WCW the 10 bell salute? Oh, fuck.
We should have saved that for next week.
Fuck.